Hello, everybody. Welcome to the new season of Duo Talk with myself and my duo partner,
Matthew Cochran.
Hey, nice to see you, brother. How you doing?
Great, man. How are you? Those new digs look amazing.
Yeah, I'm settling in very nicely, I must say. It's really nice. Um, so far, we have got quite a lot of people joining us there on YouTube and I think also on Facebook this evening. And we have a great show in store for you. And Matthew's going to set up all of that in just a minute. But I just want to say welcome to all of the Gallery Guitar subscribers, all of the patrons, all of the people watching. I'm sure there's people from Austin Classical Guitar Society tuning in as well. Very international panel, Michigan, Austin, Los Angeles, Belfast in Ireland. We're from all over the world this evening. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Matthew Cochran and he's going to set up a little bit about the piece.
Yes. Well, Reena Esmail is a Los Angeles-based composer. She writes orchestral, choral, chamber music. Her work has been featured on PBS Great Performances. She's written commissioned works for Kronos Quartet, Brooklyn Rider, Los Angeles Master Chorale, the Seattle Symphony, Conspirare, and many more. And we're here today to talk about Reena's year-long collaboration with Austin Classical Guitar, which resulted in Presence. It's a 30-minute large-scale chamber piece for solo guitar, solo bassoon, a vocal quartet, and guitar orchestra. So big numbers here. Austin Classical Guitar has just released a beautiful performance of the piece on their YouTube channel, featuring soloists Dieter Hennings on guitar, the Vamp Vocal Ensemble, and Kristen Wolf Jensen on bassoon. Let's take a quick listen to a clip, and then we will jump in and start talking. Oh, man. It's just gorgeous. I don't find myself like totally emotionally prepared when that bassoon comes in. It's really fantastic. Well, welcome to our guests here to discuss the project is Reena Esmail, Austin Classical Guitar Artistic Director Joe Williams, and Austin Classical Guitar Education Director Travis Markham. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Thank you.
Our first question is for you, Reena, and this is kind of broad, so forgive me, but it's a big, ambitious, and totally unique project. So tell us something about the composition process here. Where did you start with a piece like this?
Well, it's really interesting. I'll go back even a little further than that. So guitar was my first instrument. Like when I started playing music, I started learning it through the guitar. But I learned it I started when I was 8 years old, but then my guitar teacher actually moved from California to Texas. So I stopped playing when I was, 10 or 11. I stopped studying. So it's really funny because I can play a bit of guitar, but I can still only play a 3/4 size guitar. I can't play a full size guitar. So the process for writing guitar starts kind of in two places. One is that I know the feeling of the guitar as a kid, and for me that was the very beginning of my understanding of music, is like chords felt like the way they feel on the guitar, and they still feel that way to me viscerally, right? But then on the other hand, I haven't played the guitar up to any kind of professional level, so then it's this idea of like, how do I think backwards from what I know I can do as a composer and forwards from what I know my fingers can do as a beginning guitarist. So it was interesting because this process came together in so many ways, and I'm sure Joe and Travis will elaborate. This was the most amorphous process, because I'm sure all of you listening are asking yourselves, how did they get to a place where they have a guitar orchestra, solo guitarist, 5 singers, and a bassoon? Like, why would that happen? And it's interesting because Joe and I went through so many iterations of like, well, maybe we'll have this ensemble. We knew we wanted some professionals and some students, and that's something that I really care about, and I do in a lot of my work to bring together people of different levels and different experiences, and that was really important to us. But besides that, we just thought, how can we, if you almost think about it as like a singer-songwriter, right? There's a voice and then there's the guitar that goes along with it. What if you just blew that out to many vocal lines and many guitars? I think that's where we started, and that's where it ended up. So I'll leave it there, but Joe, maybe if you want to comment.
Well, I love that the description of the beginning of this, or this process, is amorphous. I totally think that is true, and that's really on purpose. Trav and I have been doing what we call community-centered art making for years, trying to create projects that bring together great artists like Reena and Dieter Hennings and all of the performers that you see with our community, and to have a chance for them to interact and find something that they would really never find without each other. So the process, I mean, when I think about the beginning of this, and it's so strange to see the performance now, almost 6-8 months later, and to think about the very beginnings of it. It really started with Reena, Travis, and I having conversations about what we thought was important, what we thought we could make together, and building around Reena as an artist and what we are so connected to in our community, and a long and winding road to end with what you just saw. Trav, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's a beautiful explanation. It was very important to us that we know Reena and she knows us really closely before we even started, which I think set us off for a really unique trajectory with this piece.
Did that make
and I guess just
sorry. I was wondering.
I was just going to add one thing. Yeah. So I just going to add one thing before you do that. I just want to say that that's really rare as a composer. Most of the time when you get asked to write a piece, you get an instrumentation, a length, premiere date, and they're like, thank you, see you at the premiere. And so to have this process that we're going to uncover and talk about is so unusual. So yeah, Matthew, you can continue.
Well, I was just wondering, like, did you change anything then? Like, or did you think I'm going to write this differently, or actually it'd be better if I went this way? Like, I mean, it sounds lovely. I love all that stuff. But what actually happened? Like, pragmatically, that having that feeling and having that community, what did you do in the like pen to paper, or where did the notes move around, or like did you go actually, nah, Dieter can't play that, it's too hard? Joking, Dieter, love him, he's amazing. I just had to get that in. I had to get that in. Or did you reduce it? Did you make it really impossibly hard for him? I don't know, but like, yeah, what was it? What are the practical changes that took place?
So that's what's amazing, is that the process itself, it's like, yeah, we've kind of been talking amorphously about what happened. The process itself was really a back and forth in a way that I've never experienced before. So basically, sometimes you feel as a composer that it's on you to be the person that's purveying all the music. And especially for me, because I knew, like, I don't know everything the guitar can do. Unless you're a professional guitarist, there's really no way you can, mentally work your way into that. So I thought, let me throw out some ideas and let me throw them out at the very seminal stages. So what I did is first, as Travis was saying, I did a part of the residency where I got to know the community, and that I wasn't actually in Austin for that part, but I was online. I kind of zoomed into a bunch of different classes, zoomed into their program at the Juvenile Detention Center, did a songwriting workshop, all these things that are really the seeds of what ACG is about. And so then I took that, in my mind, and I came up with these 4 little seeds. And so each of them was about like a line of music. And I gave each of those 4 seeds to one of the groups at ACG, one of the guitar orchestras. And so from there, they built this little piece around it, and we'll talk about, Travis has the I Can Feel, which is one of the pieces that was based on, I think, what you just heard, the Yemen portion of the piece Presence. And so we did that at first, and then I listened back to some of the pieces that they had, and through that then thought, what's going to connect these things together? So the composition process really affected each other, and I don't know that I would have written what I wrote if they hadn't written what they wrote, if I hadn't written what I wrote. So yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. That is fascinating.
I think, Travis, I mean, it's so cool because it's so uncommon and so strange to like unpack that just a little bit. I mean, you created lesson plans and a kind of an interaction around the materials that Reena shared. Could you talk about that? I'm just because it's such a beautiful, I think you did such a beautiful job.
Sure. Yeah. When we're working with youth ensembles and community ensembles, I think the youngest person we were working with might have been around 12 years old, and then up to community players in their 70s. And so I think we have oftentimes very few opportunities to just be raw and creative in those settings. And Reena's what she wrote were these beautiful little kind of melodic and harmonic phrases that allowed me to take them to these groups. They're simple enough where they could really understand what was going on. They could take them and say, you know what, I love this and I want it to go here. And then continue with it. They could add chords, they could add a percussive part. And so with each group, they spent a couple of hours expanding, the inspiration that Reena provided them, and then essentially creating the seed of a piece on their own.
Wow.
Yeah, so they recorded it right then. And that's what we sent back to Reena. So no homework assignments. You have to do it right in the spot.
Right.
Great. Like a voice note, like leaving someone a musical voice note and sending it back across the ether, and then getting that feedback and getting that. I mean, I don't know, Matthew. You've listened to the piece. Both of us for the show have been listening to the piece, and I've been editing it a bit today. And like, I had so many different thoughts that we'll get to as listening to the whole thing and sort of thinking what bits to show for clips. And I think that must be quite interesting for yourselves to not know what I'm going to play. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, what does someone take from the piece when they hear it? But I had so many flashbacks, some of them quite traumatic, of guitar ensembles, I must admit, when I was like, like in my early teens, I mean, what time did this gig start? Was it 8 p.m.? Was it one of these kind of things?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I guess you started tuning sometime around lunch. And then you might have managed possibly to get the guitar orchestra in tune just before the start of the gig. It's like trying to tune 20 harps. You need to start about a week before. But it was remarkable, and it is remarkable. We're going to hear it when we play some more of the clips. I mean, it's astonishing, the quality of musicianship from, like you've just said, I don't know if it was Joe or Travis, 12 years to 70 years or something like that, or Reena, whoever mentioned that age breadth. It's astonishing, the musicianship. And I know there's cues, and I know things come and go, and it's written to be accessible and performable, like you've just sort of described the technicalities and the pragmatic aspects. But still, they've got to do it, and they've got to do it at a gig like that under that pressure. I was blown away, like really, truly. I think it's remarkable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say I was too. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say I was blown away too, because it was unbelievable being in the first rehearsal. You know, I went to Austin 2 times, one with some music done, and then the next time for the premiere. And the first time I sat in one of those rehearsals, because also bear in mind, one thing that we decided at the beginning is, because I did play guitar when I was a kid, I would play in the ensemble. So I played with the youngest kids. I played that part, and I knew the entire time I needed to write a part that I was playing for myself, you know? So it was incredible, because the first time I was sitting just in the back of the rehearsal and watching Joe conduct, I thought the way that even before the students play a note, the way that they, you know, position their guitars on their knee, the way that they're so attentive there, it addresses a need that I think is so much deeper than the need to learn to play an instrument. It's a need to be part of something that feels really, I don't know, like immersive and yet directed. So yeah, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. That's, I mean, I can see so many layers of value for the participant here. I mean, like I have this visceral memory of my own first large ensemble experience. It was in a choir, and we were doing Britain's Rejoice in the Lamb, and it was wild, and it felt huge, and everything, I could feel it, you know what I mean? And I'm just trying to imagine not only having that experience with my primary instrument, but also having a little bit of ownership over the material itself, because every single group, every single sort of non-professional in the group contributed some sort of musical idea to this. So, I mean, that must have had an enormous amount of buy-in, or it must have produced an enormous amount of buy-in. How did that? So, Travis, you were really, if I'm understanding the process correctly, like you were really sort of at the helm of that aspect of this creation, right?
Yeah, you know, my background is in education. I run ACG's education program, so there's a level of challenge when it comes to asking young people, older people in this case, to make something, and also to put it together and play it beautifully, which is a whole other thing. But yeah, I think we sort of put together these really low stakes, safe moments to open up and be creative. And I think you see people light up when it's like when you ask really anyone to share themselves, and in so many ways, they're like, really, you're asking me to do this?
Yeah.
And then you end up with something really meaningful, really powerful. And there's a little bit of pressure there to really make it great, because all of these people have put themselves into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you do with the little kids in your ensemble that are like, I am great. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's do it now. Come on. I want a dangerous space. Do you know what I mean? It's too safe. Let's do it.
Those are the ones I want. Yeah.
Is that? But there was some. I tell you, there was some special conducting going on. I mean, their eyes were forward. They were watching you. I think, Joe. I mean, like, you know, I was impressed. I was like, we've got these kids in line. It was really good. Right. Let's hear a little bit more of the piece before we continue chatting about it.
It's so beautiful, and Dieter Hennings gets to have all the fun. I'm just super jealous. Well done, Dieter. If you're watching, we love your playing, man. So
we have to give I have to give a huge shout out to him. He like enormously enriched this project, and just was so open and ready. I mean, he's really devoted his life to contemporary music on the guitar, and it's astounding to see what he's done.
Yeah.
So much love there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Reena, at some point, a vocal ensemble came into the mix, which also means that there is text involved. And one of the aspects of your writing, I think that I became familiar with before this project was actually your vocal writing. So, and which I love. And where did the text come from, and how did you approach setting this text in this piece?
Yeah, this is another one of these amazing things where, in my life, in all honesty, because I write a lot of choral music, I write a lot of vocal music, and I'm almost always in a situation that I call a poetry emergency, where I cannot figure out a text that will actually set for that ensemble. And I have my poet friends and I'm texting like, please give me something. And this time I thought, okay, let's try this the other way. So, and I think Travis can speak more to this, but the text all came from everyone you're seeing on the stage. So every word was written by someone on that stage. And Travis, maybe you want to talk about that process a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. So, in a very similar way to the music generation, we asked all of the participants in this guitar orchestra to think about the idea of presence. And honestly, like, each group sort of had a different definition around what that word means for them in that moment. It was sort of a meditation around the idea together. And then they were asked to write, to be poetic, to just start writing sort of free form and submit those words to us. So we have lyric contributions from everyone, including our students who are in our juvenile justice programs, who got to meet Reena and then write some lyrics themselves. So it was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I went through everything, and Travis sent me this massive spreadsheet of everyone's, he had them basically do this exercise, and then whatever came out of it were these kind of poetic things. And it seemed like we were kind of taking a journey through the night or through the night sky. And it kind of also worked because, as you can tell, a lot of this, melodic material comes from my knowledge of Hindustani, Indian classical music. And so I know that each raga in Indian classical music is also kind of assigned to a time of day. So I picked these ragas that have that progress through the night, basically until the morning. And so I then mapped the text, which seemed like it was talking about those things, onto the various places in the music. And it's amazing because sometimes I know who wrote them, sometimes I don't. It just was like, what's hitting me at that moment.
Wow. So to take that and to generate sort of a narrative, or rather time-based thread, maybe through the piece, then that I have so many notes about kind of the compositional process and how did you organize all of this? And so often, you're sort of writing in a vacuum. But
yeah.
and you get the brief and and there you go. But I mean, I think in this particular case, there is what seems to be like a fairly broad brief, and then the specifics are actually coming from all of the participants. Am I kind of getting that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what's amazing is I think, again, even for composers and again, for all of us who are artists, sometimes we think about we have to explain what we do to someone before we actually do it, you know? And
Yeah.
of course, I mean, if that was the case, music is there for things that can't necessarily be explained that way. And so we're having to kind of go through words and then come back, or go through an explanation and come back. And in this case, because the brief was so broad, it allowed for all these things to happen. And I mean, one thing that I'll say, it's kind of an aside, but also really interesting is, we talked about how these little seeds that I made generated these seed pieces. There are also two other completely unrelated pieces. One is a choral work that I wrote, and one is actually the bassoon piece that's in the middle of Presence, that are two separate works that came out of this work that are not even, and the choral work was a work that I wrote in Travis's workshop at the first songwriting workshop that we did, which has a totally different text, everything, but came out of this ACG process as well. So these things are very related to one another when you think about them artistically and musically, but sometimes they seem like they're so discrete when you think of them in terms of particular pieces. So,
yeah. And
So-
one last question,
No, go for
Matthew. I know I'm cutting you off horribly tonight. I
Go for it.
So was Presence a was that the starting word, or did you even know that? Like where did the seed for the seed come from?
Joe, actually, I think you can probably speak to that. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So we have a season theme every year, and this year, as we looked ahead, we thought Presence was the path to follow, and so that's actually a really complicated and big and messy word, and so we worked really hard to kind of try and narrow in to a simple definition, and we just basically described it as the intersection of sensation and attention and time. So what does that mean to you? And I think this piece that Reena created so beautifully with everybody involved is an expression of what it means to be present, what it means to be in the moment.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I know that Joe and I had these long conversations about what the word actually means, because it's hard to quantify. Does it mean just, physically being in the same place as one another? Does it mean like just being very attentive to one another? And as you can see from the words, it meant very different things to very different people. And we wanted to incorporate all of that. The other thing I was thinking of, and I think of this with all my music, because a lot of times I'm asking people to be on a stage that typically have never been on a stage together before. Like, I'm pretty sure that most of the guitarists on that stage have not played with bassoonists like that, or some of them maybe not with singers. I remember the first time that the singers came to the student ensembles to rehearse the work, and you could see the students were like, oh my gosh, what is happening? And you just saw their minds just blown. So when I'm writing for these groups of people that often haven't been together before, you think, what do I need to do musically so that people feel like they can A, show their best selves to one another, and B, have enough presence of mind that they're not so stuck in their part that they can't really listen and take in what each other are doing. So that was something I tried to build into the piece itself.
I mean, it's clear watching it that there's a huge amount of trust from everybody. Which I think is going back to everything that you've built into the project, like making the lesson plans and sort of recording things on the spot, sending them to you, going back and forth, taking everything to account. Everybody gets a voice and opinion. Was there anything when you asked the kids or all the people what their idea of presence was that you were like, we can't use that? Do you know what I mean? Or like, it just totally took you off beat. You were like, I actually disagree, or like, I find this, no, I can't reconcile myself with that idea of presence, but then you had to embed it in it. Like, was there anything that you were like, I'm not sure about this interpretation of this idea? Because if it is a big free-for-all and everyone's involved and everyone can get into it, then surely someone must have come up with something during the process that you were like, oh, that's not what we expected. Do you know what I mean? But
I'm curious what sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was going to say my first rule as a teacher is don't ask a question you don't want to hear the answer to. And I
Good
think
rule.
that applies here, like,
Yeah.
if you're going to ask a question and if that question is going to be really broad, then you've committed to accepting whatever comes back. And I think for us, we had so many different answers that only benefited the task in front of us. I don't remember anything like inappropriate or but
I don't really mean like that. I mean more like so for example, what was the thing that you came up with, Joe, about presence, the intersection of, was it sensation, space and time or something like that? I can't remember. Intention and time. Yeah. That is very specific, and that's worked out, and that's taken a bit of time. Did anyone just come off the bat and go, I think presence is, I don't know, like something kind of left field, like, to them? I'm just dead interested.
Yeah, I think those are like a happy strangeness or a happy unexpected thing that only, I would say, enriches the process. And I think it's useful to think about when we're inviting, anybody who's a non-professional musician to make, music that is on a stage for an audience and for our community, that we rely on the artists, we rely on the experts to say, everything is welcome here, but not everything is going to make it in. That would probably make a big mess. And that would be, maybe that's another project. I just haven't started yet. But but I think it's a wonderful responsibility that we can ask the professional artists to make those refined choices, and ask the community in general to share exactly how they feel. And between the two, we can make something that does stick together and expresses that thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'll also say on a musical level. I was going to say, on a musical level, one thing that is interesting is, like, you're always looking for contrast, right? Because if you have a half an hour piece, it's just like the same thing. You have to have some way to contrast. And so I know, like, for instance, one of the pieces that I think we might hear a little bit of later, it's someone wrote, "Is it worthwhile, the pursuit of such radical things as summitless mountains?" And I thought, okay, that's a very different definition of, like, is it worth trying to climb a mountain that I can't even see the top of, or one doesn't even exist, right? So maybe that's a really different way to interpret what presence feels like. But I found it so helpful because I was like, oh, I can actually pivot the feeling of this piece around this incredibly compelling question. So yeah.
You see, there we go, gentlemen. Travis and Joe, you'd get a job in politics anytime. You can't answer the question, but you talked around it beautifully. But then Reena, just there you go. You see, she answered the question. This is why we all know what's going to happen over there. I'm not in America right now. We've only got a few months left, but we all know what's going to happen. A woman is going to sort it out, all right? And it's about time. It's about time. There you go. That's half the people listening will not be watching anymore. But there we go. So excellently done there, Reena. So listen, let's listen to a little bit more music. But when we come back, I think we're going to go to our audience that are listening, because there's been some questions coming in and some comments, and we want to embrace, some of the things that they're asking as well. So maybe we could hear a little bit. And this is one of the interludes in the piece, moving into hearing a little bit more of the bassoon, which is obviously a sound that we don't immediately go to in our minds when we think of guitar. Amazing sound to have, you know. It's so guttural. It's just amazing. You just immediately go there.
Yeah.
So we've got one of our listeners is from Germany there, and we've got a question about, and maybe we've missed it, maybe we've been remiss in sort of explaining all about the context, but where did it take place? And I mean, obviously the question is asking like what country, what city, but also you could tell us the venue, you could tell us the hall, give us some information about the project. It's beautifully lit. It looks like quite a serious concert hall. What's the deal?
Yeah, so this took place in Austin, Texas, at the Austin Independent School District's Performing Arts Center. They were very gracious to partner with us, and of course, we've worked with them. And Travis has really led that partnership for decades now. And so we had a serious space to share this this beautiful piece, and they really got fired up and were really inspired by it. So that's why the lighting looks so good, and the sound sounds so good as well.
Yeah, congratulations to everybody involved in the production of the piece as well. Those are often unsung heroes.
Yeah, well, I have to sing praises to Todd Waldron, who is our production director and produced the sound that you heard and captured it on the day, and then basically worked all summer to get this beautiful product out
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah,
he's done a great job. I mean, at the end of your actual full performance video, which I'll put links in the description of this show video too, so people can go and watch the whole performance, the whole 30-minute work. You have got great end credits, which give everybody a nod and a shout, which is so good because on an audio perspective, I mean, I don't know, we maybe hear it a bit later on, but there is some percussion, like in terms of like hitting the guitar and stuff going on. And all of those forces and dynamic levels are captured really beautifully and not to the detriment of the tone. I mean, we even heard the bassoon there. It's got such a beautiful sound and a beautiful tone. But the timbre and the variety of timbral contrasts that are on display is really impressive. And to capture it so effectively and be able to share it in this medium, I think it's again, it's just a great job. I mean, you're crushing it, as they say over there, I believe, on your side of the pond, which is a very strange term, I must say. So, Reena, when you take office in a few months, please get that out of the vernacular if you can.
Yeah, okay, we'll do.
We would most appreciate that. You know, that would be wonderful. So we've got a few more questions, and this is an interesting one. Here we go. This is from Jose. Is the guitar orchestra composition layout similar to a typical orchestra with violins, violas, cellos, wind instruments, and brass? There you go.
Yeah, I'll let Joe and Travis take the majority of that because I was as confused about all of that when I started writing I mean, believe me, before I had the first conversation with Joe, I did not even know there was such a thing as a guitar orchestra. So you can imagine how much I learned over the course of that year. But yeah, Joe, you can probably speak a little more about that.
Sure. So it's, I think the guitar orchestra grew out of the guitar quartet. It's all the same instrument. And I think the guitar orchestra is coming into itself as a genre and divorcing itself from the guitar quartet in this really very positive way. What we have and what you hear on this piece is 4 different ensembles, each playing a different part. And just because I'd love to share who these people are. It's the Youth Camerata. This is the middle school age kids. Middle-aged kids. We do have some middle-aged adult members in the community ensemble, the ACG community ensemble, and the ACG Youth Orchestra, which is a high school age ensemble. And then there's a cohort of guitarists from UT Austin, UT Brownsville, and UT San Antonio. And generously, Adam Holzman, Isaac Bustos, and Michael Quantz partnered with us to have some of their students come and form like a little Guitar One ensemble. And then you have 2 bassists that are playing a classical guitar bass. So there's about 65 members in total. If you look at the score, it's 4 parts and bass plus all the soloists.
And Reena, were you clear on instrumentation before you began? Did you know that you wanted like a some sort of classical bass guitar, and did you know that bassoon was going to be involved, and did you know that that's Vamp Ensemble, which is a new ensemble to me? Holy moly, they're amazing.
They're amazing, yeah.
Did you have that going in, or did that also morph as the process happened?
I think by the time I started writing, it actually, I knew what I was going to be writing for. But in a way, I didn't necessarily think of it as this like monolith ensemble the way you think of an orchestra. Because,
Mm.
of course, when you go to school and you learn how to write for an orchestra, which is a lot of what I do in my life, you kind of learn, okay, the proportions, the way that things work, how long you spend in the brass before you have to take them out for a lighter to all of that kind of stuff. This ensemble is such a free for all in a certain way that the everything is off the table as far as that's concerned. So I think in my mind I was structuring it more like a Bach passion or something than anything else, where I knew that there was a chorus of people who were at a variety of levels, and then I knew that there were soloists who could do very specific things, and then obviously vamp that was kind of a unit, but a professional unit. So again, to give everyone a chance to shine, to give everyone a chance to do what they needed to do, I wrote it in a very modular way, not straight through. And so it was interesting because for me, one of the really tough things to conceive of is that, okay, when you're working with, say, a professional ensemble, you typically think of, if you have multiple like multiple flutes or oboes or something, you would think of the first player as being the higher player, and then the next one being like less, just playing less high. Then if you're thinking of like a youth orchestra, you're thinking of maybe the first part is like the hardest part, and then the next part is slightly easier. This was kind of crazy because the way that the ensembles worked out, the part that was for the youngest people was one of the middle parts, and then the first and fourth. So just being able to conceive of that, because as a composer, you take all those considerations and you almost make it into a physical shape in your mind. And this shape was not a shape that I was used to writing into. So really just, it threw me in a lot of ways. But then what was so helpful was to come in. I mean, actually before that, I'll even say what was so helpful is that Joe and Travis were in there with me when I would say, is this anything? Does this work? And they'd be like, here's 10 options. Here's a thing that you can do, and that was what was really awesome, because it gave me the leeway to try things. And then going and trying it with the entire ensemble, one thing that I was so blown away about is that the sound quality and texture of a guitar ensemble is nowhere near as loud as you would think it would be with that many people in a room. Like I was thinking like 80 trombones, 80, even 80 violins is going to be crazy, but 80 guitars has this kind of like, and just a beautiful kind of plucky, angelic sound in a way that you don't necessarily expect. And then strumming can actually be quite loud. So learning those things was really I wasn't prepared for it. And of course, like ACG has this model of really bringing people in and working with them immersively. And I think especially for an instrument like the guitar, you need that. Otherwise, you literally cannot write a piece without actually understanding how what you're seeing on the page translates to what you're actually hearing in the room.
Yeah.
And I've led dozens of commissions now at this point, and I can say it's really extraordinary how like caring that Reena was to the smallest hands on that stage.
Yeah.
And it was never a burden. I felt like it was what we all want when you write a piece or you get a piece. You want to feel good. You want to feel good when you play it. And Reena just so delightfully like set up every member at the different level that they were to be successful.
Yeah, that's because she plays a 3/4 size guitar.
Exactly.
So it was all dead easy for everybody.
I played everything that I asked everyone to play, except for Dieter, who I could not write anything that this man could not play. Like, seriously, there was a point at which I was like, here's a crazy version of what I think should happen. Can you tell me what I should do on guitar? And he's like, oh, I can just play this. And I thought, oh, you're ruining me for every other guitarist. I don't know how I'm going to write for guitar now. But for all the student parts, I just played them. And actually, it was so sweet. I have to say this, that and I told Travis and Joe that I work on a 3/4 size guitar, and I still have my baby guitar that I got, for Christmas when I was 8 years old. But my parents must have paid $100 for this thing. It's totally messed up. The bridge is not working. And so basically I was like, I need to figure out a way to, write it on this guitar. And they actually sent me a guitar, which I still have. I should have brought it out. It's in the closet right now. But they sent me this guitar to work on over the years. So I had a 3/4 size guitar to write write this piece on. So all of these things have passed through my hands badly, but the musicians are doing a much better job of playing them.
That's excellent. Oh, it's fascinating. Well, we've got some more music to hear as well. And on hearing the music, there was a question came in from Javi in Mexico, and he was saying, is it a CD or can the piece be found anywhere? Like, well, all sorts of streaming options are available to you in this world that we live in. But Apple Music, Spotify, something like that. Is there anywhere that we can hear the piece other than the whole performance on YouTube? What are the plans?
That's the scenario right now. Just it's on YouTube. It's on our YouTube channel. You can find it there. There's a dream that might be available in some other context, but that's going to take a little work to do before that happens. So go to YouTube and enjoy it there for right now.
Okay, no problem. Well, everybody can hear it in very high quality. It's an incredible recording, and a lot of people nowadays use YouTube as their streaming service. They use it as their player, their music player through YouTube Music. So I don't think, I mean, Javier, you're already logged in and commenting on the video. I'm sure you've got it in it. I'm sure you've got it in there. Sorry, you can find it. Okay, so there you go. Look at that. He's on it. He's on it. He's like that. There he is. Do you know what I mean? I guess it's the kind of audience we have here. Do you know what I mean? There's no lag. Okay, so. Let's have a little bit of, I don't know, is this your teenage angst moment coming out, Reena? I'm not sure, but this is the sort of beginning of the guitar solo moment, which when I was working on it today, just like, choosing a clip, there's a very pentatonic-y sort of bit going on. And obviously there's something as well with the Indian classical music, and you've mentioned a little bit about that style of writing with the different times of day for the ragas, but maybe after we come out of this, that could be something to think about there as well, because this tonality isn't that odd to a guitar player noodling about in their bedroom in their teenage years, but it is definitely unusual in an orchestral or large chamber ensemble setting, I think, or that's how I definitely felt when I was listening to it. So let's have a wee listen to this little bit.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm hearing it through new ears as I'm heard what you said and then listened to the piece again. Because for me, when we did the little seed of this piece, that bum 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 ba da 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 da, that was basically the seed that I gave to the ensemble, and the ensemble was the adult ensemble that kind of parsed that and sent me back videos. And actually, maybe that's exactly what happened. Is a lot of that first lick you hear that the ensemble is playing, that is the adult ensemble, and someone came up with that lick in their video that they sent back to me. So I edited it a little bit so that it made sense in the raga, but that was from the ensemble. So maybe they were just noodling around with it and loved it, and that kind of made it into the piece. Yeah.
Listen to a lot of Jimmy Page, I would say. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very, very
so that's
cool.
I mean, like I said, it's really their work as well as mine.
Yeah,
wow.
That's awesome. And you talked about contrast. Sorry, I'll go to Matt and say you talked about contrast. That is so contrasting. Like suddenly that cuts in the piece, and you're like, okay, we're in a completely different. We're not in Kansas ananymore. Do you know what I mean? What's happening next? It's very, very cool. Sorry, Matthew, you were about to embark.
No, I completely agree, and I definitely get the sense, and of course we've been following Austin classical guitar for many years. This seems like a rather cultivated process at this point. And Joe, I don't think the process of commissioning works has always quite been as I'm going to say maybe sophisticated or cultivated as you currently have it. I think what we're seeing now is an iteration of lots of trial and error and really interesting collaborations that are leading up to this. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how we got here with this very, very unique commissioning and collaborative process that you all seem to have kind of nailed.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. Thank you so much. I think that if we back up and remember that one of the amazing things about art is that we can assert meaning, is that we can create meaning. And Travis and I have been working in a process, as I mentioned, about community-centered art making, and that started in 2017. We had several projects that have developed over the years, and it was always messy. And that's kind of actually, you have to be available to be messy. So that's why I'm so happy that you think it's so tidy. It has been a little easier, but every project was really specific to the context. We can talk about that some more if you wish. But I think Reena is the third artist in residence we've had over 3 years. Clarice Assad was our first artist in residence, then Mark Pashechny, and now Reena. And in each of those contexts, we're looking for a porous relationship between great artists and our community to see, really based on their skills and what they're really good at, how can they fire people up? And if we think about success in a composition or a commission, it's not, maybe on the surface, you might think this is a super fancy concert. Awesome. Ding, ding. Let's get a Grammy or whatever you think. That's awesome. And that'd be great if that happened too. But really, if we define success as making meaning for our community and helping people felt like, I would say that right next to that is belonging, that everybody on that stage felt like they belonged. Those were our North Stars as we went through this, and the great art that is made from it is essential to that process as well. And I think they go hand in hand. I didn't answer your question very simply, but it's very abstract. But I know McAllister's ready to be like, okay, buddy.
I'm going to make you your own little Grammy, and I'm going to send it to you. And then you don't even have to think about it ever again. You've just got it. It's that easy. One person sometimes at work, it was like they really wanted lots more authority and power, and I was like, just give yourself a wee badge. Just make it yourself. Just make it at home. Then you can choose what color it is, and then you can make it and you can wear it, and then it's all fine. You've got your own badge. I digress from your beautiful summation of the project to this point. As the third person in residence and having names like Clarice Assad, your name's big too, Reena, but what were you thinking? I mean, did you go into it with a little bit of trepidation as well, thinking, God, this crowd know what they're doing. They're like, they haven't got a Grammy yet, but they'll get it. But they know what they're on. They know what they're about. I've got to have my ducks in a row here. Well, did you feel a bit about the whole thing?
I mean, I think that's the thing that I felt the most is that I knew that I did not know how to write for the guitar in a professional setting, right? That to me scared me a lot. But at the same time, I thought, well, what better way to learn than with people who are so thoughtful and so supportive at every turn? And, it's interesting because one of the things that when Joe was talking about the process of collaboration, one thing that he didn't mention is the amount of time that he allotted for everything. There were these timelines that were so specific, but a year out, now we're going to have 3 weeks to just think about this part. Now we're going to have a few weeks to edit the things. Now the students are going to be able to process it and come back. All of that was really taken into account. own. And I think that in professional commission world, we don't allow for performers because, I mean, even if it's someone like Kristen, the bassoon player, who is, amazing and professional and awesome, there was a certain process that I had to have with her to make sure that I had what I needed. She had what she needed. Like you heard that crazy low texture. It was because I was asking her things and she was sending me voice memos of these awesome things the bassoon could do that I was then incorporating, right? So all of these things required time, and that was what was really important. And so what I saw is that I guess when you're learning something new, and I do work in new genres, right? Because all my training, like I have so many degrees in music, all of them are in writing for classical instruments, right? So chamber music and orchestra music, that's my actual training. I also work in the choral world. I also work in the band world. I work in the educational world, in so many different areas. And I've had to learn those things by trial and error because my training has not prepared me for any of that. And so what I look for when I'm trying to learn those things is a group of people who can really meet me where I am, who I can ask the stupidest questions to at all times, and who I can trust that they're going to be like, hey, we see this is where you want to go. This is what's going to be the result. Let's try it out. This is not going to work. This is going to work. And just to be able to be very honest with one another. And I think as a composer, what you're bringing to the table is all your past experience and your raw ideas about what you want something to sound like. And then you require players who are so thoughtful and engaged for such a long time to get something that is like the thing that you saw. So, I mean, for me, yeah, of course, it's so intimidating to even look at a guitar and think about writing anything for it. But it's met by that amazing collaboration.
I think there are two pieces of willingness that are involved here that are extremely unusual. Reena, your willingness to ask a bunch of questions that you wouldn't have any kind of context for the information for. And then, of course, Joe and Travis, your willingness to build music out or around your own community. I think one of the things, at least to me, that makes this project and any project of this ilk so special is that it couldn't happen anywhere else. It couldn't happen with anyone else. It's a real sort of representation of the personalities who are in this particular city and working through this particular organization and of course and Reena, all of your sort of individuality and personality. That's what really struck me about the piece. I think more than anything is just how singular this really ends up being.
Matthew, I love that, and I love that. I hope your listeners and any artists or anybody who's interested in a process like this doesn't think of that as a discouragement in any way. Like, it is singular. It is an expression of this time and this place and these people, but the same could be said about any other place. There's rich gifts wherever you are, and the invitation to partake in those gifts is the first step in that process, and so valid and valuable.
So in the process of collaboration and all the good things that were going on, we're going to take a slight diversion, but not really, away from Reena's music and hear a little bit of Travis's music. And we're going to hear a little clip from a piece that I think was in the first half of this concert when it took place. And it's a little clip of I Can Feel. And Travis, you might want to give us a little bit of background and a bit of context about this, because it's obviously come directly out of this essence of collaboration.
Absolutely. So like we mentioned, Reena sent these seeds to us, and each individual ensemble got a seed. Well, each ensemble also had a partner composer working with them to develop a piece. So we had 4 local composers who worked with each one of them to build their own piece. And that was the first half of this concert. This particular piece that you're going to hear was written by the Youth Camerata, which is our youngest ensemble, and myself, using the rag yaman, which is typically the, at least my parents who were familiar said this is a beginner rag. Like, this is one of the first that you would learn. And so it was very appropriate. And so they wrote music around this, and then I took it and then gave it back to them. The kids did an amazing job of sort of improvising and creating this, and what you're going to hear is their lyrics, their music arranged and put together by me, and you'll hear Mary Ashton from Vamp with just this unbelievably beautiful, pristine voice singing the words that our student Betsy wrote, which is, "I can feel the sun on my skin, I can feel the heat in the wind."
Beautiful, beautiful. Congratulations.
Travis, you don't know this, but I saw the youth camerata yesterday, the ensemble. They just gave a performance yesterday, and I got the video like hot off the press yesterday and was playing it for them on my phone. And you can hear that bass drum, right? So the bass drum is played by a young man named Logan, who is probably about 13, 14. And it's real. I just couldn't be more proud of him. The strength to play for 1,000 people or so by himself in that context. And so anyway, I played that for him, and immediately Logan was like, "That's me playing bass drum."
Oh, excellent.
Your bass drum. So good.
Well, the plaudits are absolutely piling in for you folks, by the way, this evening. It's amazing. So Gail has just put a beautiful comment on. She just says, "What you're all doing in Austin seems so unique. I have never heard of a program similar to it anywhere else. I wish I had started out on guitar in such an environment." And I think, and probably a lot of people watching who have played in different ensembles, guitar orchestras over the years, because guitar societies tend to have this kind of interaction at their core, at their meetings, or at their sort of maybe if they're building towards something in a season, a performance for a charity or something. But of course, you take it to this level, which is, I don't think it's seen, or I certainly can't think offhand. Someone else asked earlier on, I think it was Jose, he maybe asked, is there any other opportunities or any orchestras that do things like this? And I'm sure you hope as well that what you do in Austin is an inspiration to other ensembles and maybe other places that can get a similar idea off the ground, because it's so beneficial, even not just to starting out guitar, like Gail says, but just expressing yourself, the poetry aspect of it, the lyrics aspect of it, and the big man with his bass drum there, giving it a whack. It's amazing. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. And Javier as well, just he jumps in to say congratulations to everyone involved in the project.
Aww.
And in particular to yourself, Reena, who did some beautiful and extraordinary work. So it's lovely, lovely. And actually, there you go. Jose's moving to Austin. So
come on, good idea, Jose.
There you go. You can't say much better than that. So I think before we wound up, Matthew and Reena, there was something you guys just wanted to discuss a little bit more about the project before we hear maybe a final clip from the piece.
Well, I'd like to return to this experience, Reena, that you had. You were playing in this ensemble.
Yeah.
with these students. So yeah, let us know how that. What did that feel like?
It was amazing because, and I said this to Joe and Travis so many times during the process of like, I feel like this project and ACG was giving me this incredible gift. And it was like, how do I accept this gift that they're giving me, which is the gift to kind of connect back to my own past as a guitarist and to actually be there on the stage with the students and to actually have this really beautiful interaction. I remember the person I was sitting next to was like a young guy, and he was kind of telling me about the composers that he liked and we were just having this really sweet interaction with each other. And I remember thinking, I work with a lot of students. Like I said, I work with youth choirs, youth string ensembles, so many different students. This is my first time working with an ensemble where I played their instrument when I was their age. And I remember just at the very end, these three really wonderful, very quiet girls kind of came up to me, and I feel like they had been wanting to talk to me like all year, and they finally like gathered the courage, and they were like, hey, we just want to let you know that like this changed our life, and like, really thank you. And it was so sweet because I was like, I was that girl. I was 100% that quiet girl who had a lot going on in my head, and I just knew, I was so aware that, these people are coming in, they're professionals. I don't really know how to interact with them. And I just saw myself in them in a way that I almost haven't seen myself in any other youth ensemble that I work with, because if I had lived in Austin and I had been a kid of that age, I would 100% be a girl sitting as their stand partner. So, I mean, there was that. And then, I mean, the other thing that I thought was so, so beautiful was that there are a number of kids in this ensemble that were South Asian. They're from South Asian families. And I was in the lobby afterwards, and this mother came up to me, and she was like, I wanted to take a video of my son playing in this raga to show my mother who lives in India, because I don't think she realized that her grandson who is studying guitar would actually be playing a raga that she loves and understands. And so kind of seeing all these different connections and being able to make those connections because the environment was set up so beautifully for that interaction to happen was it really blew me away.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is probably the place to just wind up our chat this evening, folks, unless anybody has anything burning that they want to say. I mean, I think it's just been really remarkable to hear and to see and just speak to you all about the project. And as I've said, the link to the Austin Classical Society's video of the full performance will be in the description of this video. I'll put it in the comments as well. And usually over the next couple of days, a lot of people listen to this as a podcast, so they don't necessarily watch it on YouTube, they just listen to it as a podcast. So we'll put links everywhere so people can enjoy the whole performance, because it also, you sort of nailed it with the length, like 30 minutes. It's absolutely perfect. It's not one of these big Wagnerian epic dramas, do you know what I mean, that we have to, run around the park 27 times to hear the whole thing. You can just go out for a wee jog, do your 5K if you're lucky, and then you're fine. Do you know what I mean? You're good.
Right.
So we've had a blast having you all on, Travis, Joe, Reena. It's been amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
sharing
us.
it all with us. And before I play a little bit of the ending of the piece, not quite the end, but before it, I think Matthew will wrap up the show for us this evening.
Well, just a little bit of house cleaning. We've got an album out, Matthew and I, that we are very, very excited about. It's streaming everywhere, and you can purchase high-resolution downloads in a bunch of different formats on sacredblackrecords.org. We have a bunch of pre-orders coming in for CDs and for vinyl. The CDs are ready to go. They will ship out on Wednesday, the 25th. We're so excited about that. Vinyl is going to be just a little bit later. It'll ship out on November 29th, which is Black Friday in the US. So remember that Pale Blue Dot will make a great gift for the guitar lover in your life. You can also catch Matthew and me on the road quite a bit this season. Next performance will be at Royal Conservatory of Scotland's Big Guitar Weekend. That is November 1st in Glasgow. We also have dates in Germany and Austria in late November, and we'll be back in the US in June 2025 for the Guitar Foundation of America and a couple of other things. And then back to beautiful St. Andrews, Scotland in July of 2025 for the the classical guitar retreat. So please go to cochranandmcallister.com for specifics.
Like a professional. What a guy. Just like so smooth. It's unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? Like I could never do that. Like, and that's why we're such a good duo. Do you know what I mean? Just amazing. Just amazing. It's like fire and ice. So listen, once again, thank you all for being with us. Thanks to everybody listening and watching. And we're going to hear a little bit more of Reena's beautiful piece Presence that was part of this fantastic project that you've been hearing all about this evening with the Austin Classical Guitar Society. Thank you all for listening and sharing this evening with us. Bye for now.